Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of May 5th. Well, here we are, folks, the eve of the season opener. I know a lot of folks will be out there right at midnight tonight, and it's a very exciting time for a lot of folks, and a lot to talk about here. So we'll get started on that in just a sec. Just a couple of things to go over quick. Reminder for folks to get out and make sure you have a fishing license. If you haven't gotten one yet, you can get one easy enough on the DNR's website. They got their Go Wild page. You can log on and get a license. They're easy enough. Also, if you don't want to do that, we're happy to help folks out here at the shop. Another reminder that the Southern Wisconsin Trout Unlimited chapter is hosting their Riversmith Casting Clinic tomorrow. That's going to be in Cross Plains at Xander Community Nature Park from 9 a.m. to noon. If you don't want to be out there with the hordes of people on the lakes, take a trip down to Cross Plains and you can learn a new skill. Or if you're, an experienced caster, folks can give you tips on improving your cast. But this is a great event for beginners. So if you've never casted a fly rod, they'll have all the rods and gear and everything on hand. Volunteers from the chapter to give you tips and work with you. Super nice folks there. Also have folks from the DNR talking about what lives in trout streams and taking insects out of the water to show you what trout eat, and how to read trout water. A whole bunch of stuff going on. So anyway, give that a look tomorrow, 9 a.m. to noon. A great event going on there. Also wanted to take a minute here to thank Noah Humfeld. Came through last night, gave just a really great presentation, as always. You can imagine. I'm sure you've seen him on the YouTube series Shop Talk that he's doing, and he does a great job there. Great personality, very entertaining, very knowledgeable, and just gave a really great presentation on opening weekend tactics, I guess. And we'll use some of that in the report here, but wonderful event. Thanks to Noah, and thanks to everybody that made it out, not only for last night's event, but all the events we did. Of course, the spring seminar series is wrapped up now. Super happy to keep that tradition going that Gene did for so long. And I know a lot of people appreciate it. So yeah, it's a great time. So thanks again to everybody that made it possible. And I guess we'll see you in the winter when we kick those off again. Otherwise, on to the report. We had some pretty seasonal temps weather-wise early this week, but then things have been on a gradual warm-up, and we got some gorgeous weather ahead, looks like, for the weekend. It's a beautiful day today, going to be beautiful tomorrow, so it should be lots of folks out enjoying the water. The buoy on Lake Mendota this morning was reading 48 degrees. A couple days ago, I heard about 52 degrees down here on Kegonsa. Of course, that would mean that the temps on main lake areas are going to range somewhere in between there. Of course, you're going to find warmer temps in shallower areas and protected bays. And a lot of those shallow areas, according to Noah last night, that's where you're going to want to concentrate a lot of your fishing this weekend. But yeah, we can touch a little bit more on that here in a little bit. Generally, with the season opener tonight, and it looks like gorgeous weather, there's going to be a lot of folks out, and right at midnight and all day tomorrow. So, I just ask folks to please be patient and courteous on the water. That way, everybody can have a good time. So we're all just out there to have fun, right? And it's going to be a great opener. And like I said, based on Noah's presentation last night, focus a lot of your fishing time in shallow water. Bait fish and all species of fish really are enjoying the warmer water that shallow water provides. So, I'd be looking, definitely not deeper than 15 feet of water, probably more like 10 feet of water or less. You're going to find most of your fish this time of year. In other news, I've been getting great reports of local panfish moving into shallow bays and shallow areas around town. That panfish action has been picking up with these warmer temps we've had. Early season catch and release bass has been great around town, especially on Mendota. A lot of great fish coming out of there that I've been hearing about. And catfish up here on the north side's been picking back up. The Wisconsin River is back up a little bit the last couple of days, but it's very fishable down near seasonal levels. And I've been hearing about folks getting a nice mixed bag of walleyes, white bass, all kinds of fish out of the rivers. So we'll touch on that a little bit more later too. Up here on the north side, we'll just start up on Cherokee Marsh. So the panfish just don't seem to be moving in there in the numbers. I do hear about some crappies coming out of there. Just had a guy in the shop earlier this morning who said he was headed up there, heard that they were getting some crappies, but I haven't heard much in the way of reports up there. A lot of pike. The weeds are starting to come up. Bass action up there has been at times phenomenal, but other times completely dead. So I guess that's Cherokee for you. It's like that in the winter. It's like that in the summer. But definitely worth a look and worth at least a few casts up there. 113 Bridge. I've been producing good white bass lately, some good crappies, and the catfish bite seems to be turning up down there. Catfish bite also good here in the whole North Bay. That's classic spot for them this time of year. Out on Mendota, out on the main lake, haven't heard much, but like I said, shallow bass anglers have been doing well. Panfish have been in a lot of these little inlets around. They got Mendota County Park, Pheasant Branch, Marshall Park, Spring Harbor. Pick one. They're all holding fish right now, and University Bay is good. The bass guys that have been fishing shallow have been complaining about not being able to keep walleyes off their line. And so that if that's a clue as to where you should be fishing, if you're looking to get into walleyes tonight or tomorrow, I'd be looking up as shallow as you can find, because that's where a lot of these fish are hanging out, chasing around the bait fish that are up in that warm water. Tenney Park locks are now open. I haven't heard much out of the breakwall itself, but it should be pretty much a zoo down there. I know it's a lot of folks like to start their season off at Tenney Park, and that launch will also be busy. Heading down to Lake Monona, good areas to try are where the Yahara River dumps in here, or in the Yahara River itself can be really great still in this spring period. Otherwise, shallow areas all around Lake Monona are going to be a pretty safe bet for fish. The crappie bite over here in the Triangles and Monona Bay has been picking back up, which is good to hear. Still hearing about some good fish coming off the wall. So a lot of good action down on that end of the lake. Lake Wingra, a lot of small panfish. Been hearing about some nice bass coming out of there. But I'm sure folks will be in there looking for some muskies tomorrow, and I'm sure they're in there in good numbers. Over here to the channels on Monona, I've been hearing about good panfish near Weechowuk, formerly known as Squaw Bay. Great spot to try to get some gills. Otherwise, again, shallow areas where you're likely going to find fish. Down here on Mud Lake, been hearing about some great bass action through there still, and good panfish in the dredge hole area up here. So great areas to check out. I even saw a post online that some folks got into some walleye up there, which I've seen through the ice up in that area too. But it's always interesting to see that stuff. Down on Wabisa, been hearing about some panfish a little bit here on the north end and down on the South Bay, but that action's been kind of spotty. Been hearing about some good bass action, shallow. I guess that's pretty much the theme for the whole report here is shallow, shallow, shallow. But I would look to those areas if I was fishing out here tomorrow. Babcock Park is also going to be a pretty safe bet for fish. And I heard it's very shallow in there. Down on Keeganza, I haven't heard much out of Keeganza specifically, other than some panfish action up near Fish Camp County Park. But this whole area where the Yahara River dumps in, and any current areas in general, that goes for all lakes, are areas where you're going to see fish stacking up in those areas, and that'd be a great place to start. The whole area around Fish Camp up here is pretty shallow, so I'd definitely be giving that a look if I was on Keeganza opening day. On Kashkanang, I haven't heard much out of there. Action seems to have kind of quieted down down at Indian Ford. Haven't heard much out of Kashkanang, the lake itself. Still hearing about some walleyes being picked up from Black Hawk Island all the way up to Jefferson, up at the Jefferson Dam. Been hearing about some white bass showing up there, but still getting some walleyes, and kind of that nice mixed bag you find at a lot of dams around the state. Up to Beaver Dam, I haven't heard a lot out of there except for good catfish action still. A lot of good eater-sized catfish up there, so if you want to catch some eaters, there's some good action up there. Haven't heard much out of Devil's Lake or anything over this way. The Prairie du Sac Dam with the river levels back down on the Wisconsin River. Action up at the Prairie du Sac Dam down to the Highway 12 bridge has been good. I've been hearing about walleye, sauger, white bass, sturgeon, you name it, that old mixed bag. River deal is definitely happening up there. The walleye are in a post spawn. White bass are spawning or getting ready to spawn. So a lot of action to be found at dams up and down the river. Haven't heard a lot out of Lake Wisconsin other than some short walleyes up here where the river dumps in, and some decent panfish action out of Whalen's Grade and the Fingers down here at Harmony Grove. Up to, I haven't heard much out of Portage. Wisconsin Dells has been pretty active. I heard about some good walleye, white bass, and crappies. Crappies seem to always show up there this time of year, so the Wisconsin Dells area up by the dam there has been pretty great. Castle Rock and Petenwell dams are producing fish right now. I haven't heard much out of Castle Rock Lake itself. I did see a couple reports of some nice fish coming off Petenwell. Both those lakes should also be pretty busy here with the opener tomorrow. Over on the Mississippi River, the water is still very high. I think it's coming down now, which is great to hear. But I know they had to move. They had some kind of big league tournaments out here up and down the river that they had to move inland to a few Wisconsin lakes because the water was too high to fish. I did read that the Clements Barge is opening back up today after being closed for more than a week, I believe. So when the Clements Barge closes, you know the water's high. But it's coming down, and hopefully fishing over there will improve. As far as stuff going on over to Milwaukee, I don't hear about anything in the tribs right now, tributaries, but I have been hearing about some good coho action at a lot of the harbors up and down the shore, the coast, east coast over here, in particularly down near Racine and the Milwaukee areas. I think what the deal is those cohos kind of hang out down here and they start to move up the coast until they get up too far and the water shallow starts to warm up, and then they move out deep. So they should be moving out deep pretty soon, but I haven't heard that they're out there just yet. I haven't heard much out of Green Bay, but those post-spawn walleyes are, a great world-class walleye fishery up there. Haven't heard anything out of Winnebago, but the white bass should be running pretty soon over in the Oshkosh area. And gosh, I think that might be it for the report. As far as freshwater goes, trout fishing around the area has been pretty great. I was out with my son on Saturday last week. It was kind of miserable, windy, cold weather, but we found caddis flies coming off. So we caught some fish that were rising up to darker colored caddis, but also be on the lookout for blue-winged olives are also coming off this time of year. Occasional stone flies still, and I even saw a few crane flies the other day. So having dry flies in your box is definitely a great idea because this is the time of year when you can run into some major hatches. Other than that, if there aren't fish rising or hatching, beetles too. Actually, we ran into a stretch where we didn't see any rising fish, but threw on a beetle. I want to thank Craig Amacher from Madison Fly Fishing Company, who posted that he had gotten some fish on beetles and we weren't finding rising fish. So I thought, hey, throw on a beetle quick. Let's see what happens. And boy, we really did well on a beetle pattern, which I thought was kind of odd for this time of year. Typically, that's a late summer type presentation. Anyway, if there aren't fish rising, otherwise, woolly buggers and nymphs are super effective this time of year. On the spinning gear side of things, it's hard to beat a black and gold panther martin, but of course, tube jigs and rapalas are also super effective. And with the season opening for live bait and catch, you can keep trout after starting tomorrow. So it's really hard to beat. Like a red worm drifted under a bobber, drift that through a run or a riffle. Super effective way to catch trout. I would encourage folks to try to use like a circle hook when fishing for trout like that. Catch them in the corner of the mouth. So if you do wind up releasing the fish, you have a better chance at a healthy release for those. But anyway, I guess that does it for the report. I want to wish everybody a safe and successful opening day tomorrow. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to call the shop here at 241-4225. We're happy to kind of expand on anything I might have touched on here. And thanks for tuning in. Post your comments and photos below or what you're catching out there. I want to know how everybody's opening day was. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.